What we did was not take necessarily the best cases, but the most interesting. Not all of these cases were unknowns, and they're in no particular order because of logistics, and we don't want one person to stand out more than any other. The first case starts off a little dry, but I'm going to ask for some audience participation as we go along. It took place south of Tijuana, Mexico. The investigator was Greg Sisko. He is an amateur astronomer and a photo analyst, and what he did to figure this out was amazing. He, as an astronomer, uses different software, and I'll give you a brief overview now and quickly go through the slides. He took a video and took individual frames from it, and then stacked the individual photos that he took from the video to make it clearer and clearer and clearer. This is what astronomers do with stars. And let's see what he did. It's about a minute. The fellow was in his backyard, and he saw something far away in the sky, and he began filming it. What music he was listening to, I have no idea. This is definitely not an airplane. It seems to be rotating. And that was it. The person was looking southwest from this location. That's the Pacific Ocean Air, just south of San Diego in Mexico, 5 miles in from Tijuana. And this is a still. This is what the object looked like. This is what it looked like embossed to give you a better impression of the shape. Now, what's interesting is if you go down south to Ensenada, this location becomes important in our investigation later. He used PIP software, and then he used Registax, and then he used Topaz Gigapixel, which is an addition to Photoshop. And this was to clean up, all of this was to clean up an image of what we were looking at on the video. PIP. I'm just going to go through it quickly. He extracted each frame that was clear enough to stack. And then he basically laid them all on top of each other with Registax. And then he aligned each photo so that it would overlay the object perfectly. That's the first image, that's the second image. Here's the audience participation part. What does that look like to anybody? Any guesses? Huh? The Millennial Falcon. Anybody else? A cruise ship. It is. It was a superior mirage, sometimes called Fata Morgana, named after King Arthur's shape-shifting evil sister. I don't know why, but a superior mirage is one that you see in the air as compared to an inferior mirage, which is one you see on the road ahead of you when you're driving. It was a cruise ship. The port of Ensenada. It was a mirage, and there were a couple last year that made the news. So this case is now considered solved. Our next case is by an investigator so famous, they named a cafe here after him. Earl Grey Anderson, one of MUFON's finest.
The main witness was driving in Long Beach, California with her adult son on December 14th when they saw a 200 to 300 foot long boomerang shaped object. I would call it more of a V shape. It was hovering over an elementary school playground. It was completely silent. It exhibited no visible means of propulsion. It was the main witness and her adult son. So the main witness stated in an interview that the object seemed like it wanted us to see the lights. So this object tilted towards them. She said that it seemed purposeful. Before, all they could see was the shape of the V. But it seemed like they wanted them to see the lights, so that it went back to its original position, spun around, smoothly flew over the neighborhood until it disappeared into the distance. The main witness said, both my son and myself felt that we had been psychologically affected by this object. Time itself seemed to slow down somehow. We felt as though we were in some kind of a bubble. Both the mother and the son stated in an interview that they felt that the lights on the craft seemed to initiate the strange time dilation effect that they experienced, as well as the unnatural quietude that they experienced during their sighting. Following the initial sighting, the main witness began experiencing dreams that were, she described, realer than dreams. In these dreams, she was visited by tall gray entities with black eyes, as well as tall praying mantis-like entities. Following one visitation in April 2020, the main witness had a visitation episode where she woke up the next morning and she found puncture marks on the back of her neck. I got a phone call from her that morning, and I spoke with her and her husband. Husband was really freaked out. There's nothing that he could do about it. He was paralyzed. He was paralyzed in bed. It was silent in there. He found her in the kitchen later. She was kind of huddled up in the corner in the kitchen, and her bedclothes had actually been snipped off of her as if by some kind of like a laser or something. It was very smoothly cut. And she said that she wasn't afraid, that she just felt very, very confused and couldn't understand how this could possibly happen. Now, in this case, we've had other boomerang cases in Los Angeles. In particular, in Long Beach area, we had one a couple months ago that was featured in the MUFON journal that I also closed as an unknown. That case, it wasn't followed by visitations or abductions, but the witness described pretty much the exact same craft. Another interesting thing about the craft, I'm going to go back for a second to this other slide. She said that in front of the craft, where it reached a point, that there was this nebulosity, that it was like a cloud that it carried along with itself. And this other case that we had in Long Beach, it was described the same way. It was before this case had been released to the public. The witness saw, in his case, the entire craft was covered up by a cloud.
The main idea that we wanted to give here today with these 5 cases was we wanted to show some of the more, I don't want to say uncommon ways, because many of our cases do require this level of investigation. We wanted to show some of the variety of talents that our field investigators have.